We're joined by Matt Foote, author of How the Police Tried to Suppress Protest. Thank you so much for coming on, Matt. How do you see what's happening in a historical context?
It's very frightening. As the commissioner said, this is unprecedented that they've, certainly in recent times, that they've prosecuted the organisers of a mass protest in this way. It has obviously potentially has a chilling effect if the organisers can be treated in this way. What I would say historically is, whilst I was surprised, I'm also not surprised. And what we looked at in our book, Charged, I wrote with Morag Livingston, was the imposition of the militarization of policing from 1983, where Thatcher secretly introduced paramilitary powers to the police. It's never been admitted by the Home Office, but all the documents are there that show that they did that. And we look at the effect of that on protest in the last 40 years. And because they're not held to account when they carry out draconian and unlawful policing, not held to account properly, time and again, they get away with it. It means they can continue to the next one. But if I could just say in more recent times, what people will understand probably more, will remember, when you give vast discretionary powers to the police, as the police bill did in 2022 and the protest bill in 2023, I think it was, all of which was complained about by all the justice organisations, Liberty, Amnesty International, Justice, that you can't give these sweeping powers. They will use them. And that is the part of the history that they keep arguing for more powers that they use to full extent. So the big issue here is significant disruption to community, that they will use that to its full extent. And there was an excellent letter from legal academics this week saying that we believe that this is completely disproportionate. 40 academics already signed up to that. And so we've seen that in recent times of the coronation. People hadn't even got their placards off the van when they were arrested on some broad sweeping new power locking on. I mean, a complete ridiculous example of them overusing their power. And we saw it used against Extinction Rebellion protesters, where they banned London-wide protests completely illegally, went off to court. It was found to be completely unlawful outside the sections of the Act. So I'm not saying that this is the same here or the same set of facts, but that use, draconian use, extensive use, overuse of sweeping powers, there's a long history of that in the Met.
Do you think it's been a mistake? I mean, on some of those protests, some people don't sympathise with the cause and they just kind of ignore it, that the police have done that because it's not their cause. I mean, should we not have all been sticking up for people we maybe don't agree with on certain causes?
Well, I think if you're talking about the idea of two-tier policing, which is something I wanted to mention, I think there is two-tier policing, but it's against the left anti-racist peace campaigners. If you look at the history properly, the far right have been treated with kid gloves. And that's led to problems, massive problems. The fact that Tommy Robinson was allowed to protest in Trafalgar Square, centre of London, led to the confidence for them to carry out those racist attacks we saw in the summer. The police allowed all that to happen. And we saw that very importantly in Rotherham. In 2015, the police facilitated 14 far-right marches into the centre of Rotherham, right into the centre, where the Muslim community were all around there. And it gave a confidence to racists to go further. And that was tragic. This is very, very serious that the police using their discretion this way. In 2015, an 81-year-old imam in Rotherham, Mushin Ahmed, was killed by racists. A vicious racist attack that followed those marches. The next march that happened, what the police have been doing up till then is persuading the mosque leaders not to come out, not to protest, stay at home. So they allow the far right to protest, stop the left from protesting, or the community, all the community came out on the next protest with a wonderful banner that said, "Enough is enough." And that brought the issue to a head because they were pushed back, the far right. The police didn't accept that and ended up arresting a whole number of members of the community. They were called the Rotherham 12, and I helped represent some of them. And we had a trial in Sheffield, and they were acquitted in a big political trial there. But the danger of the police controlling the conditions and the narrative, they use it politically, and they've done it time and again. And we have to do what Stop the War are doing, and what the Palestine Solidarity Campaign are doing, which is to bring people together and to push back, because everybody knows that the only reason we have the arrest warrant against the perpetrators of the genocide is because of these vast protests around the world. Never would have happened without people speaking out and that mass feeling of protest. It's been wonderful, the protests. They've all been peaceful. They've been predominantly, from what I've seen on the protests, led by women and families. Have been wonderful occasions. And the idea that these are anything other than peaceful and lawful is ridiculous. And they've been organised in that way, and they've been incredibly important for democracy. Just one other point on that the people who would speak up and say some of the things that I'm saying now, some of those people are now in the government, but have been completely silent. I mean, Keir Starmer used to, liaise with organisations like Liberty and stuff and advise them on excessive use of police powers. And he spent years involved in the kettling issue, challenging the use of kettling by the police before he went off to the DPP. So it's really tragic, I think, how people have forgotten their trajectory, their journey, and not stood up for these very basic rights for people to be able to come out and protest against a genocide involving thousands and tens of thousands of children being killed.